So you know how this works. We're now going to go around the world region by region. We'll start right here in North America and go around. The charts, every slide will be the same. So the one on the upper right shows the regional GDP growth rate. So that's the total region's economic growth rate. And then just the key economy growth rates there on the bottom. And again, like I said, Mexico has been downgraded since this chart was made. We didn't talk much about Canada. Canada's had a little bit of a difficult run of late. Canada was the only large, well, Australia as well, the only large developed economy that didn't fall into a recession through all the financial crisis and all of that. But low commodity prices have hit Canada hard over the last couple of years, and their manufacturing sector has suffered. When we look around the world, I mean, there's been a lot of talk here in the United States about the hollowing out of manufacturing. But in fact, our manufacturing output is held relatively steady. Manufacturing jobs have fallen significantly, clearly. The countries that are losing manufacturing jobs and output are those countries where there's a lot of manufacturing operations, but they're not controlled by companies from those countries. And two examples of that are Canada and Belgium. Most Canadian manufacturing companies, a lot of it anyway, are subsidiaries of American automotive companies or whatnot. The decisions are made not in Canada where they're going to close factories. They're made in Detroit or elsewhere. And it's easier to close, politically easier to close a factory for an American company in Canada than it is in Michigan or Ohio, even if some of you would like to see the Michigan plant closed. The same holds true for a country like Belgium. Belgium used to produce, I think it was 1.2 million cars per year. It produces like 200,000 now because all the car companies that were in Belgium were German or American or French. And, well, it's easier to say, well, we're not going to close the factory at home. We're going to close the one in Belgium. To heck with them. And that's kind of what's happened to Canada's manufacturing sector. They suffered major losses because a lot of US and other companies just found it easier to close a factory in Canada than in their home country. There are no elections in North America in 2017, and I don't think anybody is upset about that. We had enough of our, I mean, the 2020 election starts probably next week, right? Someone will declare their candidacy. They just go on and on. We need to do something. We really should somehow get control of our elections. When you think about how many billions of dollars we spend on that, we can build how many roads with that money, or how many schools, or a new stadium for the Browns. No, we don't. That would be wasted. Let's have the election. So there's none. Of course, the key issue right now is relations between the United States and Mexico. As you know, President Enrique Peña Nieto has canceled his meeting with Donald Trump that was scheduled for the 31st. It was also including Prime Minister Trudeau from Canada. That's a major issue going forward. An issue I have is that this is being driven by a desire to prevent mass immigration from Mexico to the United States. But over the last 4 to 5 years, we've had net emigration from the United States to Mexico. More Mexicans have gone back to Mexico from the United States than Mexicans have come into the United States from Mexico during that period. Why is that? Well, because there's jobs now in northern Mexico. The economy in northern Mexico is doing pretty well. A lot of people have gone home to work. Well, if we're going to cut off trade and impose tariffs on them and build this wall, where are those? Do you think those jobs are still going to be there? A lot of those jobs are going to be lost, and that population, that immigration pressure from Mexico is just going to come back. The migration that's been coming through the border has primarily been from Central America in recent years, places like Honduras and Guatemala, where there has been no investment or very little investment in manufacturing. But Mexico got a lot of investment, and it stabilized, in terms of Mexico-US relations, the migration issue that was quite big a few years ago. We'll go down to South America. This is a region that's really been struggling. If you do business there, you know how bad things have been the last couple of years. I mentioned Brazil and Venezuela. Even the more successful economies in the western part of the region have been struggling because commodity prices were low, though we've seen an uptick in copper prices and some other things recently. But still, the last 2 years, the entire region's economy shrank. The entire region was in a recession for the last 2 years. That's really a poor performance for a region that, quite frankly, a lot of people saw growing 5–6% per year just a few years ago. So it's been a major problem for companies investing and exporting to South America. Now, this region's going to have a lot of elections next year. We'll see how those turn out. The one positive election we saw was the change in Argentina not that long ago. The new president, Mauricio Macri, has been implementing some really interesting policies, getting that Argentine economy back into the international community, back into the international finance markets. And that's a very high potential growth market if we can see some stability there in Argentina.